Jan Williams, today's guest, is a member of the Maranatha Baptist Church, where President Jimmy Carter famously taught Sunday school regularly for decades. Having known the president since before his time in Washington, she knows him and Mrs. Carter well. She'll share the superpower she learned from President Carter. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show. Well, Jan, thank you so much for meeting me here at the Maranatha Baptist Church here in Plains. It's just a thrill to meet you.
Well, it's a thrill for me to meet you, and thank you for wanting to talk about our wonderful town of Plains, Georgia, and our famous church.
Yeah, it is amazing to think that President Carter, for so many years, how many years was it? 45 years taught Sunday school here after serving as President of the United States.
Yes. Amazing. He is the only president to have ever taught a Sunday school class while he was president, the only former president to teach a class after he was president. So that's very historic right there.
Yeah.
Whether we'll ever have another president that'll be like Jimmy Carter, I don't probably think we will, but his faith is so important to him.
Yeah, he is truly a remarkable human being. Even people that don't think much of his presidency love him.
Yes.
Because he has been such an extraordinary post-president.
Yes, and I think he's been reachable by the public. When he taught here, every Sunday that he taught, the guests were allowed to line up in an orderly fashion, and they could go stand with the Carters. We would take their camera and make a picture of them and then hand it to them, and they move off to the side.
Yeah.
So not only did they get to hear a great Sunday school lesson and a wonderful worship service, they got a memento on their camera to take home to put with the memories in their heart.
Yeah, what a treasure, what a treasure. Was it COVID that stopped that practice?
No. President Carter had some falls. Of course, he was getting over his cancer, his brain cancer. And I always told him that I would never want him to teach if he wasn't 110% his best.
Yeah.
And he realized it was a little difficult. And he tried to teach a little bit longer, but then he knew it was time. And his last Sunday school lesson was on being ready to go to heaven. And I thought that was very ironic. That was the last lesson he taught.
Yeah. He's been around so long as an aging president that it's tempting to think he'll be around forever, but he'll be 98 soon, right?
Yes, in October the 1st.
Yeah, and I guess it's safe to say he won't be around forever.
I don't know. I don't think the Lord's through with him quite yet. He's really cute because he'll pick out things that he wants to live to see, like their wedding anniversary they had last month, and now his birthday. And then, you know, he has grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and he still affects a lot especially lives.
Does he ever attend church?
Yes,
now that he doesn't?
He does. Occasionally, it's tough on him.
Yeah.
Especially in the summertime, it's hot.
Yeah.
And then we do still have COVID in our area, and we don't want to be the ones to make him sick.
Gosh,
you
right,
know?
Yeah.
And so he watches at home. We broadcast our Sunday school and our church service, so he gets to watch it at home.
Oh, that's great. That's great. It is so remarkable to think of a former president so sufficiently humble that he would do that. Do you see humility as being one of his distinctive features, or is that not a word that comes to mind?
No, humility, certainly. He had a wonderful example in his mother. She was a giving person, being a registered nurse, and back in the 30s, she gave to people out in the country and people that she was nursing for her last dime or food or whatever. It didn't matter what color they were. Well, of course, President Carter taught Sunday school before he went into the presidency, and we all saw how during the inauguration he incorporated so much of his religion and belief into that. And then from his books, He is a very humble person. He doesn't like for you to give him any praise. He's expressed that to many times, because I get to see the effect he has on other people when he was teaching, and I would want to tell him a little story, and he'd say, Jan, you know, I don't want to hear any praise. I said, you have no idea, really, what you mean to people who either come here or read your books or hear you speak or just watch your lifestyle. You just don't have a clue, but I see it from the sidelines.
Yeah. Tell us about one of your favorite experiences with President Carter.
Oh golly, there's so many. Oh my. Well, a cute thing that happened to me one day, and President Carter loved this little story. I do tours of planes, and I stepped on a school bus, and this little boy in the back of the bus, which probably meant he was a troublemaker, he stood up and he said, "Ma'am, are you Jimmy Carter's mother?" And I said,
that wasn't nice.
"No, I'm not." And I looked at the teacher and I said, "They've not studied, have they?" You know. And I was a former teacher. I taught Amy in the 4th grade here.
Oh, really?
And traveled with her and went to the White House and went through the inauguration with Amy. And so when I got to church on Sunday, following that little incident, I said to Mr. Jimmy, you know, I don't believe what this little boy said to me. You want to know if I was your mother? And he looked at me and kind of looked down and looked back up. He said, "You must not have looked good that day, Jan." Well, I didn't think that was very funny, but the Secret Service thought it was very funny, you know. But he told me the next Sunday, since I didn't have a funny story to tell him, that I must be looking better now. So, but he has a dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
He always wants to know what's going on in your life and with your children and your grandchildren, because my children, I have 2, George and I do, have been so blessed to have grown up knowing a president from the time they were born to today.
Yeah.
And it's a remarkable town to live in with a lot of history that's still going on.
Yeah. It is amazing. And Plains has a population of what, 600 or something?
A little over 700 now, on a good day. On a good day.
And it is just a tiny little town.
It is. It is.
And it is interesting that the president wanted to come back.
Well, I asked him when he won, because to tell you the honest truth, and Mr. Jimmy, you know this, I was surprised when he won. I really was. He took him twice to be governor, so you think you're going to win. But anyway, he was what our world needed, our country. And so we have laughed about that, but he is the only president you can go to one town and really see the beginning of his life, through his life, and then, of course, the end of his life will end here also.
Yeah.
And that's really neat for tourists, that they can travel to one destination.
Yeah, it's such a remarkable town. I when I visited Atlanta in the library years ago, you know, it's an impressive library, and that's where all of that sort of official stuff is. But it's amazing now to visit Plains and see.
Well, and you know, with the library and the Carter Center, he's still helping people all over the world. There we have at the Carter Center what's called Carter Interns. They come from Emory, and they serve the Carter Center for a semester, and they're chosen. It's quite competitive. And they were just in town about a month ago to look at planes, so they get a better feel of where he came from. But when he did win, I did ask him, "What are your plans after you're no longer the president?" And he said, "I'll come back to Plains, that's home." And I said, "I'll hold you to that."
Yeah.
And he certainly did.
One of his books I read, he talks about the disappointment of not winning re-election.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
And he thought about running again. It sounds like you were pretty close to him. Were you with him in those months after his?
Nobody was really with him. Mrs. Carter was the most devastated. She took it personally that people voted against her husband. And of course the incident with the hostages kind of took us all down. He started immediately wanting to work on the Carter Center. And so he he got busy out trying to meet important people and raise money, and she just kind of stayed at home. So, but we knew how he felt. We were sad too. And I think an ironic thing from above was that when he came home after the inauguration in Washington, and he was no longer the president, and when he landed here in Plains in Marine One, the clouds opened up and it flooded rain. And I took that as a sign from above that maybe even heaven was crying that he wasn't going to be our president again. I really did. I took that as a great symbol.
Yeah. That's a remarkable story.
Thank you.
As you think about your experience with Jimmy Carter over a long time, you knew him before he was president. What superpower would you say you have learned from President Jimmy Carter?
Well, having the wonderful honor of being able to attend his Sunday school classes. And it was fun to go places and say, you know, I go to Sunday school and President Carter's my Sunday school teacher, and people were just kind of, and then they'd look back and say, you're kidding me. And I said, no, he teaches me every Sunday he's at home. Yeah. From one of his lessons, I guess the greatest thing that I carry with me today and try to use it in all my life and share with my children and other people is, when he spoke one Sunday, he said, if everybody would be kind and giving to the person in front of them, if we all did that, wouldn't we have a better world? And that is true. Doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from or whether you have anything or not. Just be kind and loving to the person in front of you. And here in Plains, I have found out that people are just amazed sometimes if you do something for somebody without being asked. You know, I know my Sunday school teacher now is Kim Fuller, who is his niece. And she said the other day she was in a store and a lady in front of her didn't have enough money to pay for her groceries. And Kim said, I'll pay for them. My Sunday school teacher lives the life like her uncle does. And the lady said, ma'am, it's $40-something. She said, I don't care how much it is. You have children, I will pay for your food. And I've done that many times here in Plains. Or I see somebody who I know is having a hard time making ends meet. And we have a lot of people like that in Plains. You know, and I just might put a little bill in their hand and say, use it wisely and pass it on, you know.
Yeah.
So every time that we had over 600 people on most Sundays to come and hear him teach, that's a lot of people to look at and try to smile and be loving when they're all wanting the same seat in the same on the same pew. And can I have 5 minutes of his time because I think I'm related and all this kind of stuff. You know, and you have to be firm and say that's just not possible. Well, then they think, why not? And I'll say, well, everybody else would like that same few minutes. We'll be here till next week, you know. And there was just so much of him that we couldn't share with the world. But when I had people come here to Maranatha, many of them said, am I going to get a picture with him? Well, I knew that was at the top of the list. Okay, if he desires to, he'll make pictures. Okay, but then I had so many people say, Jan, this is the first time I have ever been to church. Being a Southern girl, growing up as a Methodist, just like Miss Roseland did, and then marrying a wonderful Baptist, just like she did, I can't imagine not going to church.
Yeah.
And then praying hard before he began to teach. Please speak to those here today who really need your message today. Because he gave a message every Sunday. I mean, I have notebooks full of notes from his teaching. He's phenomenal. He knows the Bible. And he not only was teaching just small Christians like me, but he was teaching professors, other pastors, dignitaries, important people in the news, and it didn't affect him. Just did not affect him because he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah. As you think about that superpower you described of learning from him, that kindness, can you think of a time when you saw him manifest that in a specific instance?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this. I had a group of people here one Sunday, and this lady, they came on a bus, a tour bus. She said, my little sweet man who has a cane has cancer, and he doesn't have long to live, but this was a lifelong dream. And he was in the Navy. He got out the year before Mr. Jimmy did, but their paths didn't cross. And she said, is there any way that President Carter could just speak to him? Well, there's one request out of 600 more, you know. I said, let me think about it and I'll see if I feel led. I don't ask him, never did, never will ask him to do favors.
Yeah.
But I went to him and I said, President Carter, there's a man out here who is in the Navy and he's dying of cancer, and this is probably his last trip, and this is what he wanted to do. I said, if you feel led from above, would you just step over and speak to him before you start your class? And he kind of looked at me. He said, this really means something to you, doesn't it? I said, I'm asking from the bottom of my heart. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll stand by the little man where he's sitting, because he's on the front row. And if you feel led, you come over to that little man. He said, okay. Well, every time he came in, he told everybody good morning, and he'd say, do we have any visitors? You know, church full. And he did some other things, and I'm just standing there, you know, kind of looking at him thinking, have you forgotten what I asked you to do?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, somebody coughed over where I was standing, and he looked over where and he remembered. And he said, if everybody will wait just a minute, I have something special I want to do this morning. So he walked over to the little man and knelt down in front of him and held his hands and said, I understand you're kind of sick. And the little man was crying. He said, I just want you to know I thank you for your service to my country, and that when you go back home today, you'll know that Rosalind and I are praying for you. And then he got up and went back and started the lesson. Well, of course, a lot of people didn't know what he was doing. But as soon as he finished teaching, I explained to everybody what he had done. And then they all wept, you know.
Yeah.
The lady that brought him to Plains told me that within 2 weeks he passed away.
Oh.
But he told everybody about what President Carter did special for him.
Wow.
You know, you can't find many people of higher up
Yeah.
power to do that.
So if you're thinking about being more like Jimmy Carter, and you're telling other people to be more like Jimmy, to be kind, like he suggests, what would you tell them to do to really, you know, be more like Jimmy?
Well, first of all, I'd say you need to find a church. Churches are so much needed, and we're all going down in enrollment. Find a church, study your Bible, see what Jesus did, and look and see if you see Jimmy Carter trying to be like Jesus. And you can pattern your life around a lot of great people in our country and in our world. But there's no finer person to look at his life. Even from when he was a little boy, he didn't like the separation of color on the train, in school, and you know, he has said many times, and I think this is something the world needs to think about, the most segregated Sunday, the most segregated day in the week is Sunday. And that is true. But I know that my wonderful black friends worship different than I do. And so we're happy. It's not like, but yet we're still there in Plains for each other. I can assure you of that. So I think I would just tell them that if you've missed out on church, going to church, it's not too late. And God can forgive anything that you have ever done in your life. He is that kind of father, and that's how I think Jimmy Carter looks at Jesus and God and the Trinity all the time. That's his father, and he's so blessed. talking about people coming to see Mr. Jimmy, I wanted to say something about this.
Please.
When President Carter joined our church in 1981, he asked me what would I like for him to make, because he's a woodworker. And I said, oh, I'd love for you to make some beautiful collection plates. So this is Philippine mahogany, and he did all the woodworking on it. Mrs. Carter put in the felt. And so I said, now you've got to sign it somewhere. So on the bottom of the plate, he put a JC. Well, one Sunday we were coming into church, my husband and I, and these tourists were coming out the door. And they didn't know whether we were tourists or not. And they said, Jimmy Carter's not going to be here today. So if you don't want to stay, we just thought we'd tell you. My husband said, well, you know something? That JC may not be here today, but that JC is here every Sunday.
Yeah.
So, you know, even his initials,
That's right.
we can use.
That's right.
To remind people of his strong belief.
Now, I'm so grateful that you would take the time to visit.
You're so welcome. And you know, my husband said, what's he doing this for? I said, honey, I didn't know. I don't know. But he contacted Zach. Zach said he thought it was all right. And I said, you know, I feel like if somebody still wants to talk about Jimmy Carter, we need to talk about Jimmy Carter. We haven't talked about him in a long time. It's like he's just not here.
Yeah. He's
But
a treasure.
he's still here.
He's a treasure.
Right. And we don't want to hide him. We want to keep him where people can see him.
So take a minute and tell people how to find Maranatha Baptist Church and come visit.
Okay. We have a website. We are getting ready to change it. It's called maranathabaptistchurch.org. And there's several Maranathas now. It means our Lord cometh, and that's why we named it Maranatha. And you can look on the web and find our website, and we meet every Sunday. We have Sunday school at 10 and worship at 11. Sometimes the Carters show up, sometimes they don't. But whether they're here or not, you can at least sit in the same sanctuary that he once taught in. And we'll show you where he used to sit. And some people just love to sit there and just kind of wiggle and maybe get something, you know, through the pew, I guess. And the members here are thrilled to talk to people about what it used to be like. But also, we know that when his life is over, this will be the final service for him. We'll be here. So we're trying to prepare ourselves for that. I don't know how you prepare, because it's going to be a happy day that he's not going to be old, but it's going to be a sad day because we can't reach out to him. And it's, but you know, we know that he's done a good life. He's lived the life he should have lived. And when God's ready for him, he'll call him home.
Yeah.
He will. So we'd love to have anybody come and worship with us. We're open to everybody.
Fantastic. Well, Jan, thank you. It's been a joy to meet you.
Thank you.
We wish you every success in
Thank
the
you.
great service you do here. And
Thank you.
thank you again for your time.
Thank you so very
All
much.
right.
You were excellent.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Let's do some good.
Okay, let's do some good, right?
Thank you for tuning in to the Superpowers for Good show. Twice each week, we host changemakers who share their impact, insights, and superpowers. Don't miss another episode. Subscribe today at superpowersforgood.com. That's superpowers, 4, good.com. Be super empowered. Get your copy of the book, Superpowers for Good, as an ebook, audiobook, paperback, or hardcover edition via your favorite online retailer. Interested in having me speak to your company, organization, or association? Visit devinthorpe.com. Then let's talk. Now, keep using your superpowers for good. Together, we can reverse climate change, improve global health, and eradicate poverty.